Welcome, friends, back to the Hub Grass once again. I'm your host, Matt Arterbury, with my illustrious co-host, Mason Betterly. As always, we have quite the show for you this week. A big, I would say, time in history, event in Disney Parks history, especially in Disney's California Adventure, the opening of a brand new land with Avengers Campus, where we saw the first full land expansion for Disney's Marvel. So, Mason, we saw a lot of news. We saw everything coming out this week from all the news outlets and things like that. What was your initial thought on the new Avengers Campus?
Thanks. I hate it. No, all right. Here's the thing. And actually, I thought long and hard about this because, it opened on Friday. We were for the folks out there, we typically will record these episodes on Monday nights. So I had a whole weekend to think about it, stew over it, get my wife angry about it, because she initially thought I was overreacting. So I did think of one thing I did want to say before we start this whole thing, and I forgot to pull it up, but I have it right now. And these are the words of Anton Ego in Ratatouille. In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. We risk very little, yet we enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and themselves to our judgment. Great speech. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but
Love it.
I think it's important that as we discuss this, we remember that a lot of man hours went into this during a difficult time. We're not saying these opinions aren't to discredit the amazing Imagineers who did work on this. There's still some great stuff that did come from this land, but it did, unfortunately. The fact of the matter is, it leaves a lot to be desired.
No, yeah, and I think you make a really good point, and I'm glad you brought up that quote, because I think that's been a real point of contention amongst really Disney Twitter and Disney fans that see, especially people like us, basically critics of Disney parks, because there's food critics, there's movie critics, and the backlash that movie critics and like food critics get from bad reviews are, I think, in my opinion, never as staunchly attacked as a lot of those who are being critical of Disney parks right now. Because the narrative is like, oh, you should just be happy you're able to go, or like they did their best and things like that. But if like a chef delivers a critic raw chicken, like that's a big problem, and you would never see like the general public like be upset with a critic because they docked a restaurant for some raw chicken.
Raw chicken is probably the best analogy I've heard thus far. Campus.
Yeah, and I think that to keep this analogy going is that like the seasoning was really well done. There's a nice crispy char on the outside, but at the core of this piece of chicken, it's very raw, and there's a lot wrong with it.
With pillowy mounds of mashed potatoes.
Yes. Yeah, and so we've set up a structure for tonight, and we want to make sure, or today, and we want to make sure that we hit on all the different aspects of this new land, from theming to the merch to the dining, entertainment, as well as the attraction, which I think is inevitably the raw chicken in the room. So I think start this conversation beyond the general consensus of maybe there's some raw chicken afoot. I think the theming for me is pretty much on point. And I think what they did with Avengers Campus was smart. insofar as they didn't commit to a particular point in a timeline, and they're stuck with certain characters, certain storylines. They're in this kind of alternate reality, a different point in the multiverse, so they can bring in Tony Stark with Sam Jackson's or Sam Wilson's Captain America and things like that. So they're able to bring in all these different bits of the IP and are able to leverage, especially these new Disney Plus shows and all points in the timeline in the MCU.
Yeah, you really do get, like, they set it up so you can do sort of the best of hits with the land.
Exactly.
I really like a lot of the stuff that they've done. There's some neat details hidden throughout the land that I think is cool. The coolest thing that I've seen thus far is on the side of the WEB building or whatever. There's this drain that off the side of the building, and it says "Caution, gamma radiation." And there's a line of trees on the side of the building, and there's one tree right next to that drain, and it's like way bigger than all the other trees, and it's all hulked out. So it's this dumb thing, but it's just the best detail. I don't know why I love it so much.
Yeah, no, and I think the Imagineers that designed the architecture, the exteriors, and generally the structure did an amazing job. I think those special Easter eggs we see, especially those who themed the Pym Test Kitchen, there's just so many different things in there that are just, I think, brilliant for the theme of that restaurant. And it definitely feels like in Avengers Land. It definitely feels like you're walking into kind of a mismatched Avengers compound that they're finally inviting the general public into to see their creations.
Yeah, there's a plaque actually on like the entryway, and it says, here we gather, Marvel heroes through time and space. And I'm like, okay, that's and it's so, and I think it shows that they learned a lesson from Galaxy's Edge, because it boxed them in, setting it, and it is set exactly before, Revenge of the Sith.
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
That.
I saw that.
But, and there are people, and they're seeing it now, that there are people who would prefer to have it just be everything. They don't care if they're going to be going around one corner and seeing Darth Maul, then going around another and seeing Luke Skywalker. They're like, I just want the Star Wars. I just want to see Jar Jar Binks, man. So, it clearly shows that they learned from that. But the one thing that is really different, of course, and it's obvious that it's going to be different, is just the general aesthetic, because there's so much world building in Galaxy's Edge, and you have to feel like you're transported there, and you got the marketplace and all this stuff, and it's a real living, breathing world. And I don't feel like we fully get that from Avengers Campus, just because it's like, this is a facility where we keep the Avengers, and also there's a tower thing there, and then there's also a temple, kind of. It's kind of weird. I know they have a limited space to work with, but it's just kind of weird. It's kind of funky.
Yeah, and I think the stark difference, pun intended, between Galaxy's Edge and Avengers Campus is that, and this is something I've been critical of Galaxy's Edge for a time, and I think I'm finally going in a month or so, and I think my assumptions are going to be confirmed, is that Galaxy's Edge is a place to play. It's a place to role play. And so what they've done there is set up a place where you can role play. And it's starkly different it's very different to the standard theme park experience, where you are going there to be entertained versus you playing an active role. Yeah. And I think that's why people have been so critical of it, is that the standard park guest is there to be entertained and just like kind of take in the entertainment, take in what the land has to give to them.
Yeah.
But I think Galaxy's Edge is a lot more of what you can put into your experience. And for me, Avengers Campus is a lot. It fits the theming to a degree, or at least the history of the Avengers. Is it feels like kind of like almost like a mini Stark Expo in a way.
That's
where true. Where you have WEB, you have the Pym Test Kitchen, where like they don't all fit together, but they are expositions of these unique characters and what they uniquely offer to the MCU, these Avengers universe.
Yeah, and I think for what they do put forward, regardless of how you feel about those things, of how you feel about the attraction, how you feel about what they are, how they theme it is incredibly, or they do it incredibly well. There's even kind of the graffiti, style on the web, and then someone pointed out that Miles Morales actually has a signature on it in like the top corner or something. So okay, all right, it makes sense. You have all of the big. All the big, things that have been grown or made bigger or smaller and stuff for the test kitchen. You have, what's it called? The tomato or the tomato ketchup and mustard.
Oh yeah,
hanging there. And did you catch the Easter egg on that?
What was that?
The labels are from Bountiful Valley Farms. So, and that was what was originally there for.
Nice.
For the original California Adventure.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice detail. I love when they pay homage to old attractions.
No, definitely, and I originally thought of the pipes in Dinosaur when I saw that. It was like kind of similar to the back when McDonald's was a sponsor of that ride.
Yeah. Well, apparently, if you've noticed, there are like a lot of cranes, like mechanical cranes off the side of the buildings and stuff. Apparently, like the main one that they used used to be the maintenance crane for Heimlich's choo-choo train.
That's awesome.
It was just repurposed to that since they didn't need it anymore. I was like, okay, I respect that. And,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So.
And so I think we both agree that the theming is generally well done. And I think a criticism of both especially these two new Disney lands is the focus on what you can buy. And a big part of this land is the things you can buy. And that main hub of merchandise is the web suppliers. And so I personally am sort of disappointed with the merch because I feel like what Galaxy's Edge did really well is that it gave you pieces of merchandise that kind of really immersed you into the land, where a lot of it feels like general Avengers merchandise that you could buy at World of Disney. None of it seems really unique. I know they were going for this kind of campus, like obviously it's called Avengers Campus, and this aesthetic of kind of like a college university feel with the clothing, and I can sort of see that. But that's also where you buy your Spider Bot and your additional play attachment for the ride. And they've got some interesting water bottles, things like that. You can buy die-cast models of some of the the jets and things like that. But I don't really feel like a lot of it. Like I would buy something to put on to immerse myself into the land.
Yeah. I really haven't seen too much personally outside of the spider bots, which I don't get, and the web tech stuff and the arc reactors and what have you.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff with the. I think they sell them separately, but they're like little glow things that they put in the drinks, and we'll talk about dining later. But they actually put these glowing things that are like supposed to be Pym particles. That
Oh,
like,
yeah,
light
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
Those are
The little
cool. I mean,
vials.
they're like little they're like $5, and you throw them in the drinks and it lights the drink. But like on their own,
Yeah.
honestly, I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, you see all of the again, kind of with that role playing idea that you brought up. You know how everything in that land is in universe and it's crafted by the elements of that world or whatever. And I just feel like we're getting outside of maybe some mainstay stuff, and very land specific stuff. Most of it's probably like World of Disney things, and
No, definitely.
and I could be wrong. I mean, again, we're East Coaster over here. I've never been.
Yeah, exactly.
And I doubt I'm going to be going anytime soon. But
Yeah.
so I doubt. But I just don't see any difference, really.
Well,
Stands out.
and I think obviously the hallmark pieces of merchandise are the spider bot and the web slinger attachment. But I think a cool piece of merchandise, and it's merchandise that's actually used in the land, is the actual like authentic web shooters, you could say. They're like that more like metallic, made of metal, which actually are the same web shooters that the actual character uses in the land.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Which I think is good product placement, but also gives you like this like piece of like this is from the land, used in the land, which I think is one of the best pieces of merchandise there. That is, I think it's $69, $70 to buy that, and I think it's a very nice display piece because it comes with a display mount, which I personally think is a better investment than the Web Slingers DLC, whatever you want to call it, on ride tech, because like that to me, whatever you can say about the ride, it's cool that you can maybe enhance your ride in a way, because we all know that ride needs some enhancement in general. But it's not really a display piece where I think it's very pertinent we compare the Star Wars versus the Avengers in this discussion, because it's obviously two Disney, their newest lands. When you look at the merchandise, where like a lot of the merchandise that you buy from Galaxy's Edge is very displayable and it very feels in world, where the web slingers attachments, the web slingers, I need to look at the actual name of what they're called, but just look like failed concept toys, which technically they are, of early 2000s.
Yeah, but I mean,
Disney
you got to
tech.
remember, like, it's a toy at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
it's not a display piece. It's a toy. Kids are going to play with it. The idea is,
Yeah.
it's we get so entrenched in this that we do have to remember, the kids
Yeah.
at the end of the day are what it's about. And yeah, if I was a kid and I could get one, heck yeah, I'd be playing with it long after I've left Avengers Campus, and I'd be, if I got the Ironman one, and I had those. I had those. Well, not the Ironman one.
You did?
Yeah, I had like the original Tobey Maguire silly string.
Oh yeah,
shooters.
of course.
And I was lucky enough, like, what was it, my 9th birthday? A kid who came to my birthday party, like at a bowling alley or something, actually got me one for my birthday, and I already had one. So my mom was like, it's don't tell him that you bought it. And I was like, no, I'm gonna tell him it's awesome. I can do 2 now. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I just need the suit and I'm in.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right, but I saw a photo of a kid today with one of those on. It didn't fit. It was massive on his hand.
Was it?
Yeah, he had to use his whole palm to like activate it because it was that large.
Really?
So they're making it for more adult oriented like hands. Like there's not 2 sizes. There's one
weird.
size, and it's like over. Like this kid was like, it was enveloping his whole arm.
Maybe he's just a particularly small child.
Maybe, but it looks normal on like 30-year-old dudes. Like it's
Yeah.
made for them. So
Yeah.
I think if they wanted to go for that toy aesthetic, they should have gone with that, and it maybe had two sizes.
That actually is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, God forbid they think that far ahead. Um, but I think the actual like in park used more authentic looking web slinger or web shooter is a much better investment than the web slingers additional feature toy.
Well, for that price, personally, I'm just gonna hold on to it and get a Lego Infinity Gauntlet. Personally, if we're staying in the realm of Marvel,
that is true. That is true. That's a very good point.
Looks awesome.
It's a very good point for sure. So, and I think we both can say merch is fine, but it has much to be desired. I hope they come up with some really good, like more offerings that are kind of lend itself to immersing yourself in the land. But I think one part of it. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I'm sorry, but what's one like if since we're on the subject of merchandise, what is one thing, one type of merch that if they added you would actually be excited about? Because I have one, but I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, and I think if they did, and the problem is masks aren't like the surgical masks are allowed right now, but obviously like costume masks aren't allowed in the parks. I really wish that they had. Let's say masks were allowed in just Avengers Campus. I think it'd be great if they had either Ironman helmets or Ant-Man helmets or whatever that might be that had like an active HUD that you can actually like, look at the land and kind of give yourself like a virtual tour of the Avengers Campus. Or even just like selling. I know they have the full Iron Man armor there that you could buy for like
how much
$8,000.
Yeah, jeez.
I think it's like that $8,000. But I wish you can buy like more like relics from these characters at the park, especially.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Well, first of all, really quick, because I just remembered, they also have these really cool Spider-Man goggles that they sell that have like LED eyes that will like react and do that. I thought that was kind of neat. Definitely not a showstopper, but it was something cool.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be really cool if they did like full replicas of every Infinity Stone, and it's it was carried. So like the Tesseract or the Scepter or the thing that they carry the ether in. Obviously that would be more of like a sideshow collectible sort of thing, and or if you had like the equivalent of Doc Ondars there, but
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be, but maybe it would be like a little comic book shop to the side named Stan's. And then
there we
collectibles, just so he has a fun little cameo, something like an homage.
Definitely.
Thing. But yeah,
and I think one of the beyond what we could say about the merch, I think merchandise is something that could be changed, it could be in flux. But I do think they, to your point, I think they missed out on an opportunity to have kind of like Doc Ondar style location there. But I think one of the strongest parts of the land is the food they have.
Yes, absolutely.
We have Pym's Test Kitchen, the Shawarma Cart, as well as the Terran Treats. Yep. I think with the Pym Test Kitchen being the most kind of the hallmark dining location at Avengers Campus.
And it's such a clever idea. It's such a clever
idea. Very much so. Yeah, and what I love about it too is that the theming of the restaurant, like it's part of the food that you get. Like you see the small pretzel going through the particle accelerator, and then here comes this large version of a pretzel, and then that's something you could buy on the menu. I think that's just brilliant. I think it's just brilliant.
Yeah, no, they do. They really knock it out of the park with the dining and the theming of it. It's just it's just wonderful. That would be the main reason for me to want to go. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
For sure. And the thing I love about it most too is that they have like a snacks menu, but then they also have what they call their blue particle specials versus their red particle specials, where the blue particle specials are everything that's like oversized, like the extra large chicken sandwich, and then that $100 panini, and then the red particle special, which is everything like you use a red particle, it shrinks things. It's like all their kids menu options too.
see, that's
So
clever.
even just like even down to the way they structured the menu was just brilliant with this concept.
The number one thing on that menu that I really want to try is that giant like choco bar or whatever. It's supposed to be like a giant candy bar. It looks so stinking good.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think they actually have like an oversized version of like that wrapper, like either like it's outside of the restaurant. It gives you very much the Honey I Shrunk the Kids playground vibes in there.
Definitely.
And I think one of the coolest things they do too, I think the theming of the Pym Test Kitchen is one of the best in the whole land, is that the exterior menu is actually a cell phone that's been blown up with the blue Pym particles.
I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Because I think it serves two purposes. It makes you feel like either you are like an ant, you've been shrunk down, and all these things are large, is one way to view it. Or obviously, it's just they use the blue particles, and now everything's oversized, which I think is just spectacular.
Yeah. Now, are you a fan of shawarma? Have you tried shawarma?
I really like shawarma myself. I didn't have shawarma until the first Avengers movie came out, because that was living in northern Indiana for most of my life. The cultural food wasn't really that big of a deal, but when trends like that came up, fortunately, that trend was capitalized by certain business people in my area, and so we actually had this Middle Eastern restaurant that became pretty popular, owned by a Middle Eastern family, that became popular because of the Avengers movie, which I thought was pretty interesting. So that was my first chance of having shawarma, and I really like it. I have since then always pursued. I grew up having gyros, but I think shawarma was obviously a higher version of the standard gyro. So I look forward to when I get the chance to go there to try out the Shawarma Palace. Yeah, Shawarma Palace.
Yeah, there. So I grew up in South Jersey, in the Philly area. So there's a fantastic place called the Reading Terminal, and there's different foods from all kinds of every kind of food there. You can get Cajun, you can get Amish cookies, you can get homemade ice cream, but there was a stand that sold shawarma, so maybe it's like the weekend after Avengers came out, because yes, I'm a total poser, but I went there. If you're a listener in the Philly region and haven't been to the Reading Terminal, go check that out. It's in Center City, Philly. Actually, I think it was in a scene in National Treasure. I think that's when they're chasing, when like Sean Bean is chasing them through the city. I forget the girl's name. She goes hiding behind one of the counters there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I love shawarma. I would definitely get it if I went and ended up going. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of piggybacking on the merch side, I think the souvenir like cups and things like that, they really had done a great job with the Infinity Gauntlet that you can hold a Coke bottle with. They have a flight of beers that you can get with the beaker mugs.
The pin.
And then also you talk about the Pym like capsules and like the little discs they use are also they're like basically like the glow cubes of this land, and then they have that And they have like the oversized soda can as well that you can fill up as your your sipper for this land too, which I think is really really great.
Do you recognize where that can is? What that can is from?
I've seen it before, but I can't I've seen this can in like all of the promotional material, and it always looks familiar to me, but I've never been able to spot it, or at least recall exactly where it's from.
I forget. Offhand, I can't remember that. It's like Pina Dos or Pita Dos or something like that. But it's actually it's like a really I don't know if it's a deep cut, but it is the soda that Bruce Banner in the Incredible Hulk, some of his blood got into a bottle, and then the cameo is him drinking it.
Yeah.
So this is a reference to like way back a film that they kind of want you to forget. But So
because I think actually in the movie it's a glass bottle.
Yeah, it is.
And but so that's why I didn't make the connection. That's awesome.
Yeah. The cool thing, it made another appearance in another film recently. I think it was a film. It was either a film or a TV show, but it was like there was a print ad like faded on the wall for that kind of soda.
Oh, cool.
As well. So it's like they kept it around, and I'm glad that they were able to bring that to the forefront.
That's awesome.
It's like one of my favorite references in the land.
That's amazing.
It's weird that both of my favorite references so far are Hulk based. That's strange.
That's and I hope that's great, because I think exactly. I was to kind of go into. I know we have a kind of a break here in the middle to do a spotlight here, but I think that I hope they add more characters to the land, because I'm missing I would love to see a big walk-around character of Hulk. Like Professor Hulk would be amazing as the walk-around character. And I'm sure they'll bring in the Guardians of the Galaxy, because
they'll come back.
Yeah, they'll definitely be there, and probably walk around Terran Treats, which I'm glad that we have a themed food for Mission Breakout. I think that was a great way, kind of a nice way to merge the two concepts into one land, because it is, again, I think it kind of feeds in more to that World's Fair vibe, where in universe it does not make sense for the collector to be in Avengers Campus, but if he's there kind of on exhibition maybe in Avengers Campus, I guess it sort of makes sense. But yeah, I think the dining for me is one of the highlights.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely,
for sure.
But for really quick, we're going to take a really brief break here, just to try something new on the Hubgrass. We strongly believe in promoting independent art vendors. That being said, we wanted to start a new artist spotlight initiative. We're going to be doing it on here and on our Instagram, so keep your eyes out for that post. It should be launching the same time as this on Wednesdays. And what we're going to be doing is just showcasing artists that we think are doing fantastic work. Today we're shining our spotlight on Mare Bear Press. You can find them on Instagram. That's their main place where you can kind of find them and kind of go to their shop from there. But they've been doing some incredible work. It truly reminds us of the great Mary Blair, for which she takes a lot of inspiration from, as well as Raleigh Crump and others. Personally, my favorite of her works is the Figment Orange Bird and Sony Eclipse series that she did. So go take a minute, check out their work, and maybe treat yourself to some fantastic art for your living space or office. My wife has some of Mare Bear's art actually up on her wall. She has a nice art wall that's got all kinds of fun Disney stuff. So we'll be shining a light on different artists every week. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And make sure, like Mason said, make sure you hop over to our Instagram, follow us there, so you can make sure that you are on top of all these spotlights, as well as we'll make sure that we'll link to their online shops during that week as well, so you can reach them and see their artwork, but also maybe purchase a few pieces for yourself. So yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We love independent Disney artists and independent creators. So make sure you support them for
Because
sure.
honestly, they're doing a lot of the time, especially lately, they're doing better work than you get in the park. So why not go support somebody who
For
really
sure.
needs it and get something
Definitely.
awesome at the same time? So
We love
all
it.
right.
Love it. Love it. And speaking of independent artists, I think it kind of feeds into the next part of this discussion is the entertainment. And I think part of that bit of entertainment is also the walk-around characters. The one thing that we see in Avengers Campus a lot, at least right now, especially this opening week, which I hope it continues on in the coming years and months, is all the walk-around characters. And I think all of them are generally really great. And that also feeds into the entertainment in the land, is them putting on mini shows and things like that. But before we get into the positive, I want to start off kind of on a low note for me, because there are a lot of creators that make the suit of armor, is the actual walk-around character for Tony Stark, the Iron Man, is terrible.
Leaves a lot to
I
be
don't.
desired.
I don't know how that got through approval processes. I don't know who the maker was that thought that was a good idea. Because, and as two guys that are often on TikTok, and Mason, you have a very good big presence on TikTok, I see many different creators creating Iron Man armor at a much higher level and a much more realistic looking level than we see in Avengers Campus, which is Disney has all the money in the world to pour into making a suit, and they sell a suit of armor in the shop. I don't know how this even looks like Tony Stark. It looks like Tony Stark created half of it out of metal, the other half out of leather. Yeah, it's definitely like someone kind of doctored up a PartyCity Iron Man costume, because it's just not good. It's just not good. And I understand they want to make sure that the actor inside of it has full mobility and things like that.
Yeah, because you got to remember they're gonna have to at some point they're gonna have to kneel down and hug a little kid. So it's this strange balance they had to do, and I have sympathy for that, but at the same time, it just does not. It's not working.
Yeah. No, and I get they have to kneel down and potentially talk to a kid or something like that, but like he's a very stiff character anyway, and it's not like you see the Transformers Universal like coming down the level of a kid. Like it's just not how it is, and he's this very imposing metallic. He's Iron Man character that I think that's the place they might have had to sacrifice the interaction was to have a realistic looking Iron Man.
And they had one for a while, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought so.
I don't see a reason why they had to really go changing him, unless it was a big push to make it like close to what he had in like Endgame or Infinity War. But it just really, he's not doing flips like Spidey. So
exactly.
I just feel like they should have just kept it as it was. Maybe even just roll him back out in that suit. I'm sure they still have it. And because you're right. The shame of it is pretty much every other suit looks fantastic.
Great.
Sam Wilson looks so good.
No, yeah, I was so happy to see that Captain America outfit. Because it's funny because we're gonna get both Captain Americas right now, because they have like the Steve Rogers Captain America walking around sometimes, and they also have the Sam Wilson Captain America walking around, which I think will be interesting. I'm sure they'll be out at different times. I think it'll be kind of interesting to see them both at the same time. Because in this world, it's this other multiverse, so maybe there's two shields, but no, I think they all look great. I think the Doctor Strange looks great. The Black Panther looks really good. It's hard to mess up Spider-Man, in my opinion, because that suit's pretty basic, which is fine.
I will say, I was watching Disney Dan's history on the Spider-Man costume for like meet and greets and stuff, and he does a great job. Very extensive, but he did point out, since the new mask is sort of like it has like a base kind of hockey mask sort of bit, like a solid part. If you don't have someone who's the right frame, who's smaller, they can come out looking like a bobblehead. And he showed some footage, and it's this, and it's nothing against the actor or anything, but it's this small frame with this big head on top because it's it's one size, and it looked a little funny. But the suit itself is great. The suit itself is great.
And that kind of leads into the entertainment that we see in the land, where there's so much streetmosphere, if we call it that.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man, I think that is, I actually sent that video to my wife right when the first kind of the fan footage came out, and she's like, "How is he doing that? Like, what is going on?" She's like, "You can never pay me enough money to do that." And I was like, "It's actually an animatronic." She's like, "Oh, really? Like, no way!" Like, she was blown away by it. So coming from like, obviously my wife is a Disney fan, but she's not like in the know as much as we are. Which to her it blew her away. Even to me, it blew me away because I'm like, it's the next kind of step in animatronics. These kind of animatronics beyond just hooked up to a large machine. It's a very self-contained animatronic. It's obviously doing a very simple motion, but it's still very realistic looking, which is and then the way they connect it to the live actor. Doing his stunt going up and then coming back to the other side of the building, I think it's just really smart and great storytelling.
Oh yeah, I did hear, however, that I think it was today, he might have been down for maintenance or something because really? I think for like the morning show he kind of was a little crazy, looked a little bad coming off of it, and there were no shows later. So, I'm not sure if that was today or yesterday, but it might be a little difficult keeping him up and running.
And I think that's definitely be the big test for them is how long they can keep this animatronic up and going because I feel like there's a lot of wear and tear that this animatronic will go through. It's literally being flung through the air and obviously landing in some kind of net, but like it's still like. A lot of G-forces it's experiencing, and to be a self-contained robot is, I'm sure, a big wear and tear on that. But then the other show we see is the Doctor Strange show, which it's a very it's fun. There's a lot of little miniature magical gags in it. I don't think it's like it doesn't blow me away, but it's good. I'm glad there's something to watch and to consume beyond Spider-Man.
And if there's a character to do it with, it's definitely Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah,
I would say that. But I have to ask you, in our show notes, did you call Dormammu Dahomey?
No, so
who's Dahomey?
Actually it's the Dora Milaje.
Oh.
And so
the Dora Milaje. Yes.
Yeah. I think I maybe mistyped that.
I thought you called Dormammu Dahomey, and I'm like, sure, if you want to call him that, that's fine.
Yeah. No, the Dora Milaje. We see them walking around the campus.
Yes.
Which I think is it definitely calls back to the March of the First Order around Hollywood Studios, I think, in my opinion. But it's cool to have like this like kind of it feels like the campus is alive with these different groups of people walking around the campus, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I just going back to the Doctor Strange thing really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a show person. I appreciate that shows are in the parks. I appreciate that they're there, but 9 times out of 10, I do not like shows in the parks. The Doctor Strange one was no exception for me, and I like Doctor Strange. It just felt very awkward, and I suppose maybe that's a thing that through the day-to-day of just doing the show, they're going to work out the kinks. I thought it was cool that Dormammu showed up, that he got a cameo.
Yeah.
And even Thor got a cameo. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Depending upon which version you watch, because I watched two versions of the show, and one time there was just this awkward stop, and they brought the artifact or whatever out from behind the door, and then the second time he comes, walking out with it. I'm like, okay, that
really?
makes sense. Now it's cool. And there's a bit of riffing there, depending upon what show you're watching. You hear some different stuff. But yeah, it always just comes off as awkward to me. So yeah, shows aren't really my thing, but I do think having the Dora Milaje there is really cool. And I appreciate the fact that they do have like a Doctor Strange kind of show, even if it's kind of kiddie magic.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I was sort of disappointed with it, inevitably, because I do enjoy some shows in the parks. More of the scripted shows I enjoy, not so much the audience-based interaction shows, because that one definitely has a lot of audience interaction, which I get it. Like, they're trying to train you in the mystical arts in a way, so that just kind of feeds into the theme. But it definitely does feel a little bit. They try too hard to get involved, where like you're kind of there just to kind of watch Doctor Strange do his mystical arts. But I guess I do commend them for trying to involve the audience to a certain degree. But
I'm not chanting with you, dude. I'm not chanting
that
with you.
that was awkward. That was
I don't
awkward.
chant with people in capes. I just don't. It's sort of a policy of mine.
Yeah. But yeah, and kind of let's get into the actual meat and potatoes. I think of now where we want to get into this conversation.
Yeah.
I know that we're like 45 minutes in, but
this
I
could
think
be a
a
longer
big
episode. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. A big part of the draw to the land is the singular attraction. Web Slingers, a Spider-Man Adventure Spectacular.
No, SpiderMan Web Slingers.
Spider-Man Web Slingers. Okay. So I think start off, we both hate it, right? Okay. That's a fair thing to say for both of us. It was funny because we were both talking about this on Friday when all of the footage started to release, and you texted me and said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to curse on this next episode. And I was like, oh no. Because I heard some rumblings that the ride was bad. And so like you basically confirmed it for me, and then I was like, send me a video, I need to see this thing. And it's bad. It's just not good. It's just unoriginal.
Here's the thing. And I think this is the biggest thing for I think personally to me is you played the Spider-Man card. And I get why. He's clearly the most popular. Like, he, outside of, I think of all of Marvel, he is clearly the most recognizable. He is, I think of all superheroes, he's in the top 3, I think. I saw this poll like months ago, and he was like the number 3 most recognizable. But you played that card. But here's the thing: Universal has the Spider-Man ride. It's been there for 20 years now, over 20 years now, and it's iconic. It is so good. So you can't just go willy-nilly and, kind of half-bake a show or, an attraction here that's basically, it's effectively Toy Story Midway Mania, or if you go to the Lego parks, apparently it's exactly the same system with, I think that they just do, chopping for their Ninjago ride. It's the same system. So you can't just do that and expect this is it. This is the big one. You're using the same ride system, and you're not even as good as the 2 decades old ride that people are clearly going to compare it against. Now, the major thing that really pissed me off what, or not pissed me off, but it really threw me off was the two versions I heard, because I really wanted to make sure that my dislike was justified. I watched it twice, and I did not hear any music. I did not hear any music at all. And you were just going through, shh, do, 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 and it's just this weird silence. And Spidey's not saying anything, and you're just shooting these bots. And it felt really weird. Now, luckily, my wife found a version where you could hear music. And so I don't know if that was a quick fix they made late in the game. I don't know. Because I know that happened at Universal Studios opening. They didn't think to have any music playing in the park opening day. So it was just quiet and everyone was walking around and it was really weird. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe I just couldn't hear it on the other recordings because of where the speakers are kept. Yeah. But it was really weird. So it's just it leaves a lot. And then another thing, and I'm really sorry I'm going on a rant here, but this is my last point. It's Spider-Man. He has, I think, the only other comic book character that has a more rich and lush gallery of villains is maybe Batman. You don't use any of them. Yeah. And I don't know if it's I'm willing to wager that it's an issue with Sony and they don't want to use any of the villains because we want to do our weird spin-off of the Beetle or something. I don't know. Yeah. But okay, all right, fine. All right, if you don't want to use that, put in MODOK. Put in Baron Zemo for all I care, and have him infiltrate and yes, hello. I would like to get all of your technology. Just something, because you gotta have a villain to play off of. It's weird. It feels like you're going up against the Minions. I don't know. It's just so trite, and it's not at all what you would expect from a top tier amusement park Spider-Man attraction. Even there was another video of this weird Spider-Man attraction that was in Niagara Falls for a couple of years, and ironically it was a shooter where the gun that you shot was his hand like this, so ironically it all comes full circle because there were screens you went off of there too. Yeah. But even there, every room, it had Green Goblin, had Doc Ock, had Electro going up against. It knows you have to have the villains. It would be like getting in a Batman ride and going, all right, Gotham is in peril. Let's stop these rogue batarangs. What?
Yeah. And I have very much similar thoughts to you on this. It just doesn't compare to, because it was absurd for them to think. And I wanted them to come out with a better ride than Universal's. If you're gonna play that excuse my French, but big dick energy of I'm gonna come up with a Spider-Man ride better than yours, and then you just don't perform, you don't show up, you come up with the same ride that we see in Hollywood studios. And I believe DCA also has Midway Mania. We're it's just done. It's the same park. It's the same exact ride, and I think done better because, like you said, there's no it feels so stale and so sterile. I would say because exactly. You're just shifting between the two scenes, and there's no Spider-Man even encouraging you There's no theming between scenes. And personally, I think I have no problem with the idea of a Spider-Bot. Spider-Man trying to figure out a way to make his job easier, make these additional whatever helpers to him, kind of similar to how Mysterio had the Stark drones, whatever. I think it's a cute piece of merchandise, whatever they will. I think it'd have been much better if we had more of a Savi's Workshop style Spider-Man attraction where you went in made your spider bot, like had that interaction with Spider-Man, had like a Tom Holland looking actor there to be, or even some kind of like lab assistant, and still have kind of a that pre-show, like making your spider bot. Like, I think it's fine to have the spider bots, but to dedicate a whole ride to a screen version of these spider bots, I would be even happier if we saw like you are going up against these like actual like animatronics and taking the animatronics more a la Space Ranger spin, would have been much more forgivable than this purely screen based attraction.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was watching a couple ride throughs, and I'm thinking, if you have more than 2 people in this ride vehicle, you're gonna start punching and elbowing people in this in this ride. Yeah. I feel like there's gonna be on the quarterly accident report, you're gonna see a lot of black eyes and things like that from web slingers.
Well, even with what you're saying, like, and again, I didn't catch all of it, so tell me if I'm repeating, or like this is the story of the ride. But like, wouldn't it be a good story if he's trying to make these spider bots so that there's places he can't be, so he can have more time to himself or whatever. And then a villain hacks in and starts controlling it, and Spider-Man learns a lesson of, there's only one Spider-Man, and that's me, and you're pretty good. So, but like, even saying like, if there's that lesson of like, I can't, with great power comes great responsibilities, and I can't throw it off on a robot, so you could even throw that kind of a story in there and have the villain be the one causing the mayhem, and who hacked in? Oh, it was Kingpin, or something like that. Definitely not the Daredevil Kingpin though.
Yeah, I just don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about like what would I like to have seen on this attraction, and ultimately I'd love to have seen something on the lines of maybe like a really quick. I would have seen like maybe a juiced up version of like Rock and Roller Coaster, or some kind of coaster based attraction that was fast paced, because Spider-Man is all about swinging through these cities, and even if you want to have like contained within this theme of this Avengers Campus, have it as like you're going through his training exercises in the park, and like integrate like this kind of maybe the prototype for what we're gonna see with Guardian of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, where you have like this screen based roller coaster that's very, very fast paced, to make you feel like you're actually like in like basically a Spider-Man sidekick or something. But just to have kind of another shooter based attraction and kind of carnival style just doesn't work for me. And to have it purely all screen based, again, is very lazy. And I understand that I'm sure it was a very expensive ride to build and whatever. But I really thought the pre-show was like well themed, and then also like you leaving the ride and actually seeing like the physical spider bots like webbed up on the walls was a highlight for me compared to the actual ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And I it's just what's difficult is I think they mentioned this a couple years back, was that this was going to be like sort of a black box sort of thing, and what was going to happen there was that every couple of years they're going to be able to swap it out. So, I mean, and it's so evident because there's nothing permanent. And excuse me for a second, because we had some technical issues there. But what it was, is there's nothing really. It shows zero commitment, really, because everything in there that's physical can be swapped out, and even some of the transitions in the videos, it's like, okay, no, drop that in, and next year we're gonna have it be Ant-Man for Quantum Mania. And so it's difficult because, it just doesn't show that commitment. And I agree with you that there should be some way you could feel like you're swinging around that goes beyond what the Universal ride was, because I mean that was 20-year-old technology, and they've maintained it
Yeah.
well, and it still holds up. But what's the next step? What's that next thing? Honestly, I don't think we should have had a Spider-Man attraction. I think
No.
it just makes it too weird between Universal and Disney. And there's so many other characters that we could have had. You know what I would have loved? I would have loved a Captain America adventure. Now I know there's a lot of change going around with that, but you know, a fun thing where maybe you have to go infiltrate a Hydra base with him, and you're riding along in a Jeep, and you're in this little chasm. You look up on the hill, and he's there up above you in his motorcycle, like, hang on, and he jumps over you, and you see this thing going on. You got to escape. He's trying to make sure you're safe. Something like that. Or yeah, a roller coaster, but it's an arc roller coaster, and as the thing comes down over you, there's an arc reactor right on your chest that comes down, and it's powering you up, and you lay down, and poof, there you go. Definitely not like that Superman coaster in Six Flags. That's so painful. Not as painful as the Green Lantern coaster. That thing I needed therapy after, but
No,
yeah,
and it just feels incomplete in terms of the attraction department, because there's been talks about this from very long, since the conception of this land, that there's this big e-ticket attraction that's coming. That's like this big Avengers adventure, and I think it's very short-sighted to have just one attraction built, and I know Galaxy's Edge opened up with one attraction, but it was like within the same year we got the other attraction, where this is like years off that they're doing this. And this was even the plan. This is even the plan before COVID, I believe. So it's not like it's like a COVID excuse. It's just a kind of a poor planning excuse.
You're talking about like the jet one, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I've heard, and I don't know if I've heard from sources. I don't know if these are insider sources. I don't know if this is just saying. But I've heard that like that building is empty. It's not even started yet. So I don't know when we're gonna get that. I think that was a really bad plan, because there's just an expectation now that everything should come out nicely packaged. Even if something does need to get pushed back, it's still within a time frame. One thing that gave me a lot of peace about this was, for what we are griping about. Looking back at the '60s, New Orleans Square, I realized opened up with nothing except for shopping and eating. So I was like, that's something to think about. Obviously, we live in a much more different world than 1966, but
yeah, and I saw you made that point on TikTok, and I think it makes sense, but also they were building the rest of the park. It wasn't like they were busy with other attractions. I get that. Where like this is like a full land expansion, where like this is like a dedicated effort just to this land. Yeah, and like I that makes sense to me. But if you wanted to actually come out with a full land, they should have done it. And I think if they wanted, I think they should have spent more time on the Quinjet ride and made the Spider-Bot attraction basically like a Savi's Workshop attraction, to not compete against the SpiderMan Ride. I think it was a bad move on their part, because it's hard to compete, and obviously the thing that came out was very unoriginal. And I think it's important to have Spider-Man in that land, because he is such a iconic character, and he's a draw to that land. And obviously the attraction, the entertainment of him flying through the air is amazing and beautiful. And to just kind of bump up theming, and I think it's something to do. I think there's so little to do in that land as well. Because if we look at Galaxy's Edge versus Avengers Campus, you can build a droid, you can build a lightsaber, you can go on 2 different rides, and shopping and food. Where Avengers Campus, and again, they're very limited on space. I understand that, but this all would work within the space they currently have. Is to have that. Ideally, I think you should have done the Quinjet ride, day, for opening day, have the Spider-Bot building experience. You have your shops. You have the 3 dining locations. I think it would have been much more well received.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know what the plan is for the future of the Quinjet ride. We have had the Guardians mission breakout for that land, and we have the rest of the park. Luckily, they've been putting so much effort into DCA, regardless of how this turned out. They've
That's
been putting
true. That's
much
true.
effort
That's true.
Over the past decade. Obviously you got to give it a bit of grace and stuff. And going back to the New Orleans Square, we have the hindsight now of saying, oh yeah, and at the end of that, we got 2 of the greatest attractions of all time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what we do end up getting out of that, and how this land does evolve. Obviously, I think they are catching a lot of flack for the SpiderMan ride. It's going to be interesting to see if they listen to the fans and are able to make adjustments. I know that JPEG is saying, after all of our current projects are done, we're going to be coasting for a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see how things get addressed over time, because the land itself is in its infancy, and it's going to be a while yet before there's going to be some changes. Definitely, I'm sure this week or maybe next week, Loki is probably going to become a bit more prominent in the land, popping up a bit more for that. Are you excited for that show?
I actually am very much, especially some of the early reviews I've heard. It just kind of changes the game, and it really establishes this really interesting storyline within the next phase of the Avengers. So,
I have a friend. Well, I have a former classmate. I don't know if she actually likes me or not, but she actually worked on the show. And I think she also worked on Hawkeye. Of course, She signed an NDA, so I didn't hear anything.
Yeah,
our friend facets or whatever. But she actually spoke almost daily with Tom Hiddleston, is what I've heard. So she worked pretty closely with him. So I'm really excited to see how this show turns out. I am.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think it's going to be the most interesting, of the 3 that have come out so far.
Yeah, no, and I think, I think that's why WandaVision was so well received. It was so different, and I think this is going to be so much different than what we see in the Avengers, because it's this. He's basically going through time, and the time variance. Time variance. What's the A? Association
Avengers.
Yeah, no, but it's basically tackling these paradoxes, the time travel paradoxes that we saw briefly discussed in Endgame, and going deep into that is going to be amazing. And obviously having Tom Hiddleston back in that role and really taking it, really having a whole show around him, and he's a very interesting character. He's never been my favorite character, but I've always enjoyed him in the movies as a supporting role. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll see Loki showing up on Avengers Campus. But to kind of wrap this all up, to put a bow on it, I think overall I love the land. But I think there's a lot to be added and to be adjusted, and I think the base of the dish is there. But obviously, for me, there's still that raw chicken on the plate of that ride. That honestly, it's one of those things where if I go to Galaxy's Edge and I don't get a boarding group, I'll be destroyed. Fortunately, I'm going to Hollywood Studios twice on my trip, so I'll have double the chance. But going to Disneyland, and I hope to go in the next year or two. is that maybe 2 or 3 years. But if I go there and it's still the boarding group system, I don't get it, I won't be sad about it. And that to me is the real testament of a ride's good, because I feel like I've already seen it. I feel like I've already been on it. In that I'm not one of those types that like seeks out the perfect score on an attraction. And so like, and if I was, I don't think I needed to be on this ride. I think I'd go to eat the food and go in the shops, and I'd be happy with it. I think the world building, the set dressing in that land is enough for me as a park goer, and I'll go ride Guardians if I want to go ride a somewhat fun ride. So I think for me that's the thing. I want to go to Avengers Campus to be in that land, but I don't need to be on that ride.
Oh, it's getting late. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm sorry. No, I mean, I agree. It's not the main attraction to me. I would go for the ambiance. I would go for some Terran Treats or shawarma. And
exactly.
I honestly, I think I like Guardians Volume 2 is actually my favorite Marvel film. So,
nice.
I'm all about the Guardians stuff. So, I love Spider-Man too, but
yeah.
But yeah, if I have to pick one, and one doesn't really have a very long wait, I'm like, all right, well, yeah,
yeah.
But I've heard, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go, because I'm not going to say another word.
We're doing so good. We're doing so good. No, and I think once the Quinjet ride opens up, it's going to be forgotten pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's just, and I know it's been crazy this past week with the rollout. I know my wife watches one of those, Disney family vlogs. And, they do a whole pilgrimage down there to go see the Avengers Campus, and they can't get into anything. I don't think they could even get into the land. So they just went all that way for nothing. So the rollout has been incredibly rough. Honestly, I just think just let it just open the floodgates and don't do the whole waiting and stuff. And I think it's getting a little absurd with how long these waits are getting and how long, or how you have to go. It's getting a little too crazy with park volumes and what have you. So and that's one thing that's I think going to be an issue that's going to be plaguing us more and more in these strange new times.
Yeah, no, and to get up, not to get off topic a little bit, but that's definitely my biggest fear with my vacation coming up here in the next month is the wait times for a lot of things, because it is getting bad. It's getting bad, and I think it's not going to be as bad in Florida just because everything's being pulled back to kind of normal operations, which I hope will help curb those wait times, things like that. So hopefully be a little bit alleviated, but I'm glad we have all of our reservations for all of our dining and things like that. We got the Tusker House reservation this week, so I'm excited about that. Was able to nab that one of those at 5 a.m. I think we'll be definitely shopping and eating a lot and kind of doing that kind of thing versus a ton of rides. Which we're fortunate enough to go to Disney. Like I said, around once a year at this point, so it's not like we won't have a chance again in the future to ride something we missed. But I'll definitely be spending most of my time in Galaxy's Edge when I'm down there for our Hollywood Studios days. But yeah, I hope they figure out the wait time situation and how to properly manage these crowds in this brave new world.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that. I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm a couple student loans away from going once a year. But when that day comes, maybe some legislation comes. God only knows. I will. This is our thing now. So I would like to get down there a little bit more. and yeah, so we'll see how that problem grows over the years.
Definitely.
But
Yeah,
as soon as I'm able, I want to get out to Disneyland and check that out. I was supposed to go last year, that sort of fell through, but
yeah. I was our annual trip was supposed to be to Disneyland, and COVID happened. So, but yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up for us this week. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. Mason, where can they find you?
Wherever the wind may take you. You can find me most any place. You can find me on TikTok at Unofficial Disney CEO. That's where most of my fans will find me. You can find me on where can you find? Instagram at on the hub. Wow. I'm just getting tongue. It's late, people. It's really late.
No, it's fine.
You can. I help run our page for this show on the Hubgrass. But you can also find me at Better Be Mason. And those are the best places to find me. I'm scared of Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you can find me, as always, at Matt Arterberry on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter too, but again, I'm also afraid of that. And you can find my family vlog on YouTube as well at Matt and Mary Kate. But I'd like to shout out our Instagram again. Make sure you follow us there, because we post. Mason does a great job posting content each and every day. And then I'll be in Disney in about a month, so I'll be doing some exclusive content in the parks, which will be a lot of fun on our page. Yeah, looking forward to that. But make sure, if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, to drop us a review. That helps us out in growing our presence and the algorithm, so people could find us there. Even more, helps us boost in the search engine results, and ideally we'd love to make it into the higher levels of the Disney searches, as well as travel and leisure searches. So help us out with the reviews, and just the downloads and the listens are always welcome. But also, if you're listening to us on or watching us on YouTube, make sure you put a like on this video. Make sure you comment down below some of your favorite parts of this podcast, or maybe some questions you might have for us for future episodes. And then also subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. And also make sure you ring that bell to get a notification whenever we post each and every Wednesday. And maybe we'll be coming out with some extra videos in the future. Maybe we'll play around with that, with maybe there's a lot of the new content coming out. Maybe we'll do some movie reviews and show reviews for that. So we're looking at always expanding our library of content as well. So, as always, we love that you joined us today on the Hubgrass. And don't forget that there is a great, big, beautiful podcast, and it's just a stream away. We'll see you next time.
See you next time, folks.